Senator Blunt Rochester.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the witnesses. I come from the state of Delaware. We are, like many of my colleagues, we're urban, we're suburban, we're rural, and we're also coastal. For me and a lot of members here, we've been working on the digital divide for a very long time. And that's everything from investing in connectivity to looking at modernizing our maps. We have places in Delaware where you will drive and your call will drop. You know exactly where that spot is going to be. But the bottom line is, if you have access, but you can't afford the services, then you really don't have it. And so we are in the midst of an affordability crisis. Everything from rent to groceries to broadband internet has gone up. And it's clear that we have to be laser focused on affordability. So my first question is for you, Commissioner Gomez. Commissioner Gomez, Democratic leadership at the FCC in the past has emphasized affordability, competition, transparency, and closing the digital divide. Commissioner, from your perspective, how do affordability policies under the previous Democratic-led FCC compare to the current administration's affordability policies, and how specifically it relates to consumer outcomes?
Thank you, Senator, for that question. This administration has really lost its focus on consumer issues, and particularly on affordability. We have not seen any action to address affordability. When we lost the Affordable Connectivity Program, millions of consumers lost their service and lost their support for their service. We are spending billions of dollars to deploy networks, but we're not going to have sustainable networks if people cannot afford to actually have subscribe to the service. We need seniors to have access so that they can get healthcare services. We need students to have access to broadband so that they can prepare themselves for this AI economy that is coming. We need people to be able to access the internet for jobs. I was just listening this morning to the head of the National Economic Council who said we're not going to have a problem with finding jobs because they can be found on the internet. And my thought at the moment was, if you have access to the internet, schools and libraries need to have access to the internet. Instead, this commission took back the ability to provide hotspots through libraries so that people could have internet at home and so that students could have hotspots through their schools. Same thing with Wi-Fi on school buses. We are not ensuring that people who cannot afford to be connected can get access to the internet.
So not only will people not be able to afford the services and the tools that they need, but more people will be left behind.
Correct.
Commissioner, as connectivity expands through the Internet of Things, AI, the future 6G networks, cybersecurity risks to consumers grow significantly. Do you believe the FCC has taken the appropriate steps to future-proof the cybersecurity of everyday Americans in an increasingly complex telecommunications ecosystem, and why? And Commissioner Trustee, I'm going to ask you a similar question.
So this commission has had a lot of focus on security, but at the same time, it also has taken away the regulatory backstop to ensure that the companies actually have cybersecurity policies. This just happened with regard to the response to Salt Typhoon. This administration has been very concerned about Chinese equipment. And it has looked for every opportunity in order to make sure that we do not have Chinese equipment and insecure equipment in our network. But when China actually hacks our networks, this administration took away the rulemaking that would have actually required carriers to make cybersecurity front of mind. I'm also concerned that we have put a pause on the cyber trust mark, which is a market-driven mechanism, which I would think my Republican colleagues would actually really appreciate, a market-driven mechanism in order for consumers to have information about whether the devices they're using come from businesses that use good cyber hygiene. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get that going again, because that's a really important public-private partnership in order to ensure security.
I have very limited time. Commissioner Trustee, I'm going to ask you this question for the record, which is, you spoke about the need for the U.S. to keep pace with international telecommunications trends, including cybersecurity. And I was going to ask if you agree with Commissioner Gomez on her assessment and what else you'd like to add. So I will follow up with you on that. But I do, in the interest of time, want to spend a moment because I'm very, very concerned about Chairman Carr, your focus on ending was that you, Mr. Chairman?
It was.
Mr. Chairman, if you will give me a point of personal privilege, because every single member before me went over time, like every single
Briefly, please.
Thank you.
I think you'll submit that for the record.
Thank you. And so I want to make sure that I say this on the record, because I think when Commissioner Gomez talked about private companies doing employment matters, these are employment matters, and your focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, and celebrating the real withdrawal of that, I think has had an impact on women, veterans, people with disabilities, religious minorities. And I will ask of the record for Commissioner Gomez to explain how conditioning FCC approvals on the elimination of DEI programs undermines job opportunities, weakens our economy and our competitiveness. With that, I will yield back.
Thank you. Senator Schmidt.